This is the Fantasy Football Game Plan, where we talk about fantasy football and the NFL.
Good morning, sunshine.
Nice to see the sunshine.
It's a beautiful day.
Yes. What's happening?
Oh, so much. Did you enjoy the Bears in Pittsburgh last night?
It's entertaining. Most games are entertaining on Monday nights. Like, they always come down to the wire, which is fun entertainment. It's like the plays on the field or the calls by the officials. Like, I guess if Detroit wasn't playing, the referees had to go against somebody. So I guess Chicago was the next man up, right?
Yeah, they were robbed. No question. They were robbed. Just one bad call or made up call after another. Why don't they just stay out of it and let them play?
Yeah, the unsportsmanlike conduct, the personal foul plays all this week have been kind of questionable, and maybe it's just a learning curve that these players need to understand that they can't, like, I don't know, roundhouse kick or like just like put their arms in the air and mark first downs or chirp after a punt return or a kickoff return. It's I guess it's just a changing NFL, but
yeah,
there's stupid penalties and they're personal penalties, those ones. So like it all comes down to the smarts of the football player.
Yeah, don't look in the direction of the other bench. That would be one.
The worst is Ramsey. Like that guy's a head case. Like, okay, you're a good football player, but do you have to act like a child? Like, do you have to act like Odell Beckham, like on the field? Come on, like be more respectable. Like, it's just he's like, yeah, maybe that's part of your game to get in someone's head. But geez, like as an elite player, you think you'd walk around with a little bit more class than that.
I liked the penalty where they took away the Bears touchdown because one guy almost blocked another guy low, except he missed him completely, but they threw the flag anyways because he might have blocked him and he thought about blocking him. And so therefore they got robbed a touchdown and lost by 1 point. That was my favorite of all of them.
Yeah, because someone did a football move, they got penalized.
All right. And just the other thing I was wondering about, I wanted your opinion. Who do you think wins in a race between Tom Brady and the Pillsbury throw boy, Ben Roethlisberger?
Can we throw Matt Ryan in there too? I don't know. I think Brady has him just because Ben is bruised because he gets sacked way too many times in his last 2 years.
If Ben fell down and rolled a little bit, he might be able to beat Tom if he just rolled the 40.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had Roethlisberger as my backup quarterback this week. I had to start him because Brady was on a bye. And I just found myself cheering against Pittsburgh just because of the refs. I mean, I know at the end the Bears were offside and lined up offside a whole bunch of times, but by that time the refs had already determined the outcome. So I think they had just lost their stuff by then.
I don't know. I quite enjoyed the first quarter.
Okay, that's fair.
Yep, the first quarter was a good game, and and then it just after the second half, it kind of went both like just was weird.
Okay, well, there'll be a lot of games to talk about. We're limited in our time, so we should probably get on to the waiver picks for this week.
Oh yeah, where do you want to start? Kickers?
Let's start with the QBs. Who do you like?
You don't want to start with the kickers? Yes. I guess like one of the guys that stood out for me this week was Thursday's night's performance by Carson Wentz I think he had an excellent game, 3 touchdowns. I don't know how many yards. It shows he does have some receivers that he's targeting and hitting. Shuttle passes, touchdowns are kind of weird because those should be running plays, like those little flicks. But they count in PBR league for 0.5 of a point, so I'm not really complaining about that. But I like him. I thought he was probably one of the standout performers of this week. And if he's on the waiver wire like he should be, good number 2, could be someone to pick up.
Yeah, there's not a lot of clarity in a few situations. You're better off getting a guy who is going to start, because I think there's some question on a few teams going forward. Like some teams are using 2 QBs, like New Orleans, for example. So Trevor Simeon's starting, and he's getting the majority of the work, but they like to sprinkle Taysom Hill in there just to mess you up with your fantasy life every once in a while. So it's hard to count on that team for a QB in fantasy.
Who's hard to count on for a QB in fantasy?
Tell me.
The Carolina Panthers quarterback. The guy hasn't thrown a touchdown in like 3 games.
Yeah. I think they're looking
Do
for
not start Sam Darnold. Do not just keep him way down at the bottom of your bench and don't even have him fall off.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if they're going to start Sam Darnold next week. It sounded to me in the press conference after the game like the coach was thinking of every excuse why they were going to have to go to the backup.
Well, they should.
I guess they'll be drafting one next year.
Yeah.
So some familiar names popping up. Taylor Heineke's coming off of a bye week. There's a starter if your QB's on a bye. We should mention actually the bye weeks, because this sort of sets the table.
Yep.
So the Bears, the Giants, the Bengals, and the Texans are all on byes this week. Something to keep in mind if you've got Joe Burrow or you've got Justin Fields. So Teddy Bridgewater's on our list again because he seems to be unclaimed in a lot of leagues.
That's a guy they should have kept, the Panthers, because at least he knows how to throw touchdowns.
Yep, and they're playing some winning football in Denver, or rather in Dallas.
Well, oh my goodness. The defense, like the pressure that they had on Dak, and you know what chokes me up, and I'm glad like we're in the both same mindset, is that all week long, Dallas is the number 1 Super Bowl contender. Now that Aaron Rodgers has decided to quit or whatever, like, holy cow. And then I'm watching the game on Sunday because I have Denver's defense, which I didn't drop, which I was going to drop because of the trade of Von Miller. I was like, well, but then I was like, maybe I'll just keep him and see what they do against Dallas. And holy cow, like the media loves Dallas so much. And I watched that whole game and it was like, this Dallas team kind of stinks. Like, I don't know what's going on. They can't do anything. I had to leave at the 4th quarter, and then all of a sudden they got some offense going on. But really, like, wow, the media plays up like Dallas is like the best thing coming through. And last year they stunk. They stunk at defense. They stunk at offense. And this year they have like 5 great games, and they're going to the Super Bowl. Come on.
Well, it's America's team. But one thing I noticed about Diggs, their superstar DB, is he either gets an interception or he gives up a touchdown. There's only 2 options for him. It's happening consistently. And last week, he didn't get the interception.
No, he goes for the ball, right?
Yeah.
That's the content. That's when you don't play safe and you go for the big play, then you're going to get robbed. I guess that's why his name is like Big Play Slay on his Instagram, or is because he likes to go for the ball.
Right. So another situation that I feel like is really questionable, curious, is San Francisco. I feel like even though Jimmy G is their starter, I had Trey Lance and I was holding on to him thinking that he was going to become the starter. Well, eventually we got to week 9 and I had to dump him out and pick up Roethlisberger instead. So probably week 10, they'll go to Lance is what I'm thinking. But it feels to me like they're going to make that switch. I don't know when it's going to happen. They might not, but I mean, they should. Look at how Justin Fields is playing now. They put him in. He's gotten the work. He's looking good. That could have been Trey Lance this season.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess sit both of them, get them off your bench because they're committee by quarterback. And,
yeah,
it's just a very, I thought when I say Trey Lance was one of the guys I was excited to see this year come out of college. I stressed that in the earlier episodes. I thought he was definitely a quarterback to watch, but when you're not playing, you can't watch. So you're watching from the bench. So,
yeah, very true. Okay, well, let's take a look at running backs. Again, more mess. First of all, we should reference the mess that happened with Philadelphia, the unclear situation there. We talked about Gainwell. We recommended people pick up Scott. And of course, that's why Howard is now the running back of choice in Philadelphia, because they like to have a different guy every week. It seems to me like Howard going forward is going to be the guy. So you can forget about Gainwell and Scott, but it's Philadelphia, so you never know.
Yeah, and like I said, the quarterback runs as well too. So it's just a crazy backfield. So a lot of people put Howard on the bench because late last week they said that he was going back to the practice team, and then all of a sudden he's playing and scoring touchdowns. So whatever. If you need somebody, get him. If you have a flex, maybe one of there could be some points, but yeah. It's kind of a tough one to say definitely what's going on every week since Miles Sanders is not in the backfield.
Right. A better choice would probably be Ingram with New Orleans because they seem determined to give him a lot of work. He had 9 runs for 43 yards. He had 5 catches for 21 yards. So they're throwing to him as well. Kamara can't be on the field for every snap. So if you're desperate, I think Ingram looks better with New Orleans than he did with Houston.
Yep. And he likes playing in New Orleans. That's where he's supposed to be.
Right. Okay, Devonta Freeman is another guy on the list. Keep wanting to dismiss him, but he's getting sort of bigger and bigger every week. He's sharing the load, but he's getting the majority of the work. 13 carries, 79 yards, 2 catches for only 4 yards, but one of them was a touchdown. The problem is he's sharing that backfield with Lev Bell. 11 carries, 48 yards, also a touchdown. So,
and he's sharing it with the number 2 rusher of this week, Lamar Jackson.
Right. Well, we know
he's like Lamar Jackson could be the lead rusher of the NFL by the end of the year. So might as well I don't know what to do with that backfield. Like you want to get touchdowns, you're right, and you want to get yards, but it's the same thing like Philadelphia.
Well, I mean, I would take Freeman's 79 yards and a touchdown. I mean, I would take that every week. So even though he's sharing the load and he's got Lamar to deal with, he's still producing. I mean, the team looks good. So, I mean, if you need somebody, there's lots of teams on a bye, maybe you got Joe Mixon, try to pick up Freeman because Joe Mixon's on a bye this week.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I was playing the guy who had Connor in fantasy, so I lost big time this week. That came out of the blue because Chase Edmonds got hurt. And the guy who's going to be getting some of his work is named Eno Benjamin.
Mm-hmm.
He got 9 carries for 39 yards. That was impromptu. He also got a touchdown. This week, they'll work him into the lineup on purpose because Edmonds is going to be out for a while. And I think if you're needing a guy, he'd be somebody to look at because it's a good team that scores a lot of points. And same as the Kamara situation, you can't have Connor on the field for every snap. So they're going to have to put in the backup every once in a while. And then we need to talk about Tennessee, which is another messy backfield. They had Devonta Freeman running the ball. They had McNichols running the ball.
McNichols looks good. McNichols looks strong. I like him. But I, as a fantasy player, I have no comment. But as a football player, I like him.
Yeah, but he's their pass catching back because they used Foreman and Adrian Peterson, who's the guy that we're actually going to talk about here, because he got the goal line carries and he got a touchdown. He got 10 carries for 21 yards, which is not very good.
Didn't he have a wildcat? Didn't he have a wildcat play in that game too?
Yeah,
like, he's like, been on the team for 4 days. Go line up as quarterback at the goal line and try and run in.
Yeah, well, with Adrian Peterson in the game, he's just a hammer, right? So you want him to carry the ball. So let's not mess around with a quarterback. Let's just get him the ball as quick as possible and have him run forward with it. So that's what happened.
So you think he's someone you should pick up?
Well, he's not my favorite guy, but he's on another. This is the situation with a lot of these teams that we're talking about here today for running backs. New Orleans is a decent team. Baltimore is a very good team. Arizona is arguably the best team. And Tennessee is arguably the best team. So all those teams score a lot, and they need running backs to hand the ball off to when they're in scoring range. So the main reason why I'm suggesting all these guys, including Le'Veon Bell, is because they're on good teams that score a lot and they get opportunities.
Yep. I like the strategy. I think those are great. And if you have bye weeks and you need just someone for 1 week, or if some guys on IR or on your bench and you need that second running back, these guys that we've listed are all great if they're available in your league, like Ingram, Le'Veon Bell, Freeman.
Yeah. So let's take a look at the receiving situation. Anybody catching your eye this week that you think people might be able to get on the waivers?
Yeah. Vegas wide receiver had some issues. No longer playing the NFL, so Renfrew should be now a good number 1 receiver on that team if he's available. Catching him up because Wallace can't be catching all the balls for Las Vegas, and Carr is a pretty darn good thrower as of lately. So I really like Renfrew.
Right, because it's going to take a while for them to work Deshaun Jackson into their situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for now, Carr knows that he can trust Renfrew.
Yep.
And you can't throw to Waller on every play.
Yep.
So I think that's a good choice for waivers for this week.
Yeah, and then with free Beckham happening, Peoples-Jones once again, he caught a touchdown pass this week. He looks to be someone that Baker can trust, and it's kind of weird when you're talking about Baker Mayfield because supposedly he has like a sprained shoulder. So how far is he really throwing? How much is he really throwing? The Browns do have the run game, but they like anything. There's always 3rd and long or 2nd, and you want to get a touchdown. So Peoples-Jones, I believe, is someone to also look out for because now the locker room's a little thinner.
And Landry's not a deep threat, right? And they've got a great running game. So Peoples-Jones scored last week on a huge play action downfield throw because he's got the speed to get downfield. So, I agree. They don't throw to him a lot. Like they only threw to him 3 times, but they're going to keep doing that, right? Because it's run, play action, deep shot. So I think, he's sort of a boomer bust guy, but he could boom. Last week that was really impressive.
Yeah.
And another guy that was impressive last night, the game we were talking about, Mooney.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, finally breaking out. But Fields was like, I know he had a game, but they're last in the league for throwing. You're getting Robertson sitting at 50 in PPR league and and he's supposed to be an elite wide receiver. It kind of reminds me of the year that I had Hopkins maybe 7 years ago. My fantasy team was playing for Houston. They had no one throwing to him. And it was just this great asset that was just not being used. And I just feel that yes, you need somebody. Mooney's on the roster. Pick him up if he can catch. But I just don't know about the quarterback throwing on the Chicago. Hey, they're going to play the Lions on Thanksgiving. Pick them up. They're going to score tons of points. on the Lions on Thanksgiving. So
Right.
maybe he is someone to pick up because he will give you some good plays in those next 2 weeks. So if you have a bye this week, which is week 10, or a bye 11, yeah.
This is week 10 and the Bears are on a bye. But if you're talking about week 11 now, so try to pick him up and stash him for week 11. You're right. I mean, Robinson got hurt yesterday. He pulled his hamstring, making a big play. So Mooney, not only are they going to throw to him more, but also they had a designed run play that went to him and he scored a touchdown on it. So they're getting the razzle dazzle, the Wildcat, and he's a part of it.
It's great that we're talking about him now because we were talking about him in preseason. How much we were excited about him, hoping to get him, in the mid rounds of the draft. So it's good that, maybe this is his shining. And if you were lucky enough to keep him on your bench for this moment, or if if you can get him off waivers, then that's great.
Yeah. So another reason why I lost in fantasy this week was because I'd been waiting all season to play Corey Davis because I have a lot of good receivers on my team, but they were on buys this week. And as it came his moment to play, he was out. And because he was out, Elijah Moore got all his work. 7 catches, 84 yards, 2 touchdowns for this rookie player who's starting to look good now. And he's on the Jets. So I'm thinking he's probably available in a lot of leagues and he's starting to light it up. So I think he's a good get at this point.
Yeah, like him.
Okay, we talk about Tim Patrick on the Broncos a lot, and they have a lot of receivers.
Judy's back.
And Noah Fant, the tight end, but this Patrick won't go away. 4 catches, 85 yards, and a touchdown, and he's still available in a lot of leagues. And I think he's a great player on a good team. So if you're needing a receiver, you need a flex, consider him. If he's available in your league, consider him.
You know what really does stand out is that when Bridgewater played for New Orleans, when Bridgewater played for Minnesota, when Bridgewater has played for Carolina, and now that he's playing for Denver, he throws to multiple receivers and he throws touchdowns. Not surprising that Judy, Sutton, and Patrick are all catching the ball and making plays. It just sucks if you have one of those 3 other people on your team and Patrick catches the ball or like Judy comes back. You just really don't know where it's going.
Well, I think there's enough production there for him to pay off for you in fantasy. If you're needing a guy, if you've got an injury situation, maybe you've got Calvin Ridley, maybe you've got him, from Atlanta and his messed up situation. They put him on IR now. He'll be gone for a while. We were talking about a couple of their receivers last week. And Russell Gage was one of them. Sharp was the other. But of course, they found another guy, and I'm going to work on saying his name right. Olamide Zacchaeus.
I think you got it right.
Didn't see that coming, but they're doubling up on the tight end pits. So Zacchaeus caught 2 touchdowns, 3 grabs, 58 yards. So I guess him and Gage are going to split that work that Ridley should be getting if he was playing. And I think you could look at both of those guys as a possible pickup. Atlanta's getting hot.
Oh yeah. They're quite an offense to watch. I like them. It's too bad they're running back Davis. What a bust he's been having this year.
You need to look at that team and think, what is going on? Somehow the offense looks completely different than we thought it was going to look, but they're productive now. And Cordarrelle Patterson is a star. Pitts is a star. They've got enough pieces to score on that team, but Davis is not one of the pieces. Okay, so moving on. It's taken a while, but Brandon Naiuk is starting to look good for the Niners.
Good.
And, it surprised me in a week when Kittle comes back that's the week that Ayuk starts to look good.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the fact that defenses are spread out a little bit, needing to worry about Kittle, and they're not guarding Ayuk as much as the number 2 receiver because, of course, they've got Deebo Samuel. That's the number 1.
Deebo injured?
I don't have that info in front of me, but if he is, even more reason to look for Ayuk on your waivers.
Yeah, I think he has a sore somewhere. So okay. Yeah, definitely is someone to look for, and hopefully he will get the numbers that he was projected for at the beginning of the year. So
yeah,
if teams have dumped him because he wasn't doing anything, kind of like what happened with Mooney, maybe he's one of those sleepers that are just sitting out there waiting to get picked. The one receiver that we forgot to mention last week, and also this week, I wanted to make sure I slipped it in here, was the Van Jefferson, the other Jefferson from LA, not from Minnesota,
Right.
catching, and he's been doing really, really well for the last 3 weeks. So Stafford loves him, likes to pass to him, and someone definitely to look for, right? He's getting touchdowns, he's getting big, long plays. You know, Cooper Kupp does get a lot of the catches, but this guy is catching the balls.
Yeah, I think since Deshaun Jackson is gone, that he's become a bigger piece in that offense, and it's a pretty good offense when it's going. If you pressure Stafford, he's just like any other quarterback. He does whirly whirls in the end zone and throws the ball to the other team.
I think Stafford hurt his ankle, so maybe Monday night might be a little bit different, but he's a trooper, that guy. I've watched him play for Detroit for a long time. He'll go through injuries.
Tight ends are tough. We saw last night, though, the connection that Roethlisberger has with Pat Freiermuth. He's been really consistent lately, and he's available in a lot of leagues. So yep. I think that's a guy to target. He's probably the top target in fantasy that might be available on your waivers.
Yep.
Okay. Another guy that I like, not that he scores a lot, and he's in a bad offense, but I think Dan Arnold is somebody the Jaguars traded to get him. They're having problems getting the ball to their wideouts, and it seems to me Dan Arnold is catching a lot of balls. He had 4 grabs for 40 yards. I guess he had 6 or 7 fantasy points, 7 targets, but I think he's somebody that they're going to want to look to more and more. So keep your eye on Dan Arnold. I think he's worth picking up.
So who did you start this week in tight end?
I started Gesicki, but
don't you have Dan Arnold on your team?
Well, because of all of the buys that I had to deal with, I had to get rid of Trey Lance, and I had to get rid of both Dan Arnold and the guy from the Rams, Higbee. So I had to dump both of those guys out in order to get playable pieces. I gambled and lost with the Jets situation because I picked up Crowder. If I would have picked up Thomas, that would have been great, but I hadn't seen really very much from him. Crowder was more consistent to that point. Obviously, that was a mistake, which cost me a lot. But I still think that Dan Arnold's available in a lot of leagues.
Yeah, and the reason why I asked that is because you had 3 tight ends when we shared our rosters the other week.
Yeah.
Dan Arnold being one of the people on your roster.
Yeah.
I have Tyler Conklin on my roster. I started him over Higbee. They were within 5.5 points, or 1 point difference between the two of them. So Conklin out there being one of the guys that we've talked about in the past.
Yeah.
So I decided to make that decision due to the fact of how many threats that Rams have, and I wasn't really sure if Higbee was going to catch a touchdown, but he did. But he's kind of mediocre. These guys are kind of, you're saying 4 catches, 40 yards, or 1 touchdown, 3 catches.
Yeah, it's pretty slim pickings. I mean, Higbee caught a touchdown, but they took it away from him. So they said he was out of bounds. I think it depends on which camera angle you're looking at. And some angles, you can see a little thin bit of green between his shoe and the white line, but from other angles, it looks like his foot is over. He's still the player he was before. Nothing's really changed there. And Gesicki's quite a great tight end. It's just that he has a different quarterback every single week. And he didn't have a great week this week, but he's still a top 5 tight end. So, I mean, for me, I know who my tight end's going to be. I didn't know early in the year. I had 3 on my roster. It's Gesicki. He's definitely the best choice. So I had to dump out those other guys, but I'll probably circle back and pick 1 or 2 of those guys up again as the year goes on now. Because after this week, my buys are over for the most part. I think I need a kicker somewhere down the line, but that's it. Yeah.
And you can look at the total season stats to see what kicker is the best at the moment. We're talking about tight ends because there's also New England's tight end Hunter.
Well, he's a great tight end. I don't think he's available in a lot of leagues. I'm not sure about your league. He was drafted in my league, and he's not been available all season. But I agree with you. He's a great pickup. If you can get him, definitely try to get him.
It's just that Juno Smith is out too, right? So like, no, he's the catching one.
Oh, Jonnu Smith. Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen much of him this season at all. I mean, it's all about Hunter Henry on that team for sure. And another guy who sort of has this amazing potential, who always undershines, is Evan Ingram on the Giants, except he came up big this week. 3 catches for 38 yards and a touchdown, which is great, but without the touchdown, he's just like everybody else. So again, tight ends are so tough this year.
Andrews, leading the pack, Wallace leading the pack, and the two, because Kelsey's dropping, Hawk is getting double teamed, and Kittle's injured. Like it's very slim pickings, and then it's downhill from there. And now we're talking about what we're talking about, trying to squeeze 8 points out of a guy, and a running back can do that in a quarter without a touchdown.
Yeah. The tight ends are tough, and different guys shine every week. Like Donald Parham had another touchdown this week, but he didn't do much else. So he had the same stat line as Ingram. He had 3 catches for 39 yards and a touchdown.
The thing that is the kicker in this season as well too is these COVID players. Obviously the big story was Aaron Rodgers, but Barkley was also out. I had AJ Green on my bench because I wanted him, and then all of a sudden he had COVID, and Parker from Miami, COVID. These guys that should be playing and catching the ball or running the ball, they're you kind of have some players that you just want to make sure that they're there, and then you're just getting slapped in the face. Like, you got a bye week and then you have COVID week. So who's catching COVID this week? And then how is it going to affect your buys?
Yeah, well, you might want to get vaccinated to avoid that problem.
Hey, did you win last week?
I got destroyed. I had all my guys on a bye, Brady on a bye. I had, who else did I have? Antonio Gibson, McKissick on a bye. I had Brown.
So
I had Brown on a bye, and I played the guy who had John Connor. And
it was your throwaway week, and sometimes you have to have those weeks. So that's I snuck by I won by 1 point.
Oh, nice.
So I'm 7-2 right now, and so it's looking good.
7-2, very, very nice.
Yeah,
I think
we'll go through the rotation again. So for the next 5 weeks, I have the same people I played for the first 5 weeks, and then it goes into playoffs, which is another story.
Talking about playoffs?
Yeah, playoffs.
I'm just trying to win a game.
Yeah. Well, you never know what could happen in 6 weeks. I can get knocked down to a 7-7 or an 8, but it is coming up quick, those playoffs. 5 more weeks to go.
I'm looking forward to the playoffs. Very, 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 very much so.
Fantasy playoffs, just to make sure everyone knows what we're talking about.
Right. In case you didn't know, it's about fantasy football. In case you just accidentally stumbled across this.
Yeah.
And thought, what are these guys talking about?
Cool. Well, thanks for your time. I got to get going on my day here. So
sounds good. Good luck this week. Congratulations on a great record and so far, and I'll try to catch up to you.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
All right. Have a good one. Okay. Bye.
Thanks for watching the Fantasy Football Game Plan podcast. Need coaching on your lineup? Drop us a line and we'll discuss your dilemma.